On this episode, we talk about pro pitchers and their off-season throwing programs.
And how to deal with injury.
All right, Brent Porcio, Stephen Godani, Jay Keeler, right?
Correct.
Jay Keeler. Here at the @Top Velocity # Pitch Tip Show, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat. Ask your question, we answer on the show. Snapchat's been really big, guys. Get on Snapchat. Our stories showing a lot of what we do here, drills, lifts, exercises, to velocity, to injury prevention. A lot of our new technology that we're pushing to do is going to be coming out. If you got a question, answer it. Try to get on the show. Just like today, we'll ask the question, let's introduce Jay. Jay's, he's here with his son, very talented son, who came down to the camp. Jay's a former minor league pitcher, AA with the Cleveland Indians. How many years?
I was with the Cleveland organization for 3 years, and afterwards I went over to play in Europe.
Just like me?
Yep, and then after last I played ball, I played with the Expos during 1994 during the strike. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
What level?
Oh, I was on the major league team.
You did?
I was on the major league team.
You got big time there?
Well, they closed the season before it ever started. One day before they did.
That.
Yeah, but anyways, I got a lot of baseball on me. I've been playing since I was 7 years old, and I played up until I was 33 years old. I actually played competitive.
And you went to Florida State?
Went to Florida State University. Yes, I did.
You played under the coach who's currently there?
Under Mike Martin. That was my first year that I played there. So anyways, there's been a lot of advancements I've been seeing with baseball since I played. One of the reasons we're here because we like the cutting edge. Baseball, Brent and his gang here are doing something totally different than I haven't seen before, and I think that makes sense. I grew up in a time when all you did, if you wanted to throw harder, you just threw the ball. You threw the ball more and more and more. There was really no type of program that you would work with in the off season. I think the most important thing I tell my son is to knock it off sometimes. Give yourself 4 months of a break. Work on the things that you need to work on, meaning strength. Work on your hips. Work on the things that are going to make you a better, more mobility, just a better picture. Not just throwing the ball all the time so you don't throw them any harder.
Right.
You're going to wear out your arms. So I think it's important as a young pitcher to be smart. You don't always have to throw the ball to get harder, to make the ball go faster. It's a lot of these workout programs that Brent has over here to offer you that's going to make you throw harder, not just by throwing the ball all the time like I did. I went to Florida State. I went there as a sophomore. I threw 91, 92, which is very hard 36 years ago. But when I left the program, I was throwing 91, 92. There was no program at the time to make me throw any harder, and that's why I'm here with my son, because I think he's got a lot more potential than I ever did, because there's no things out there that Brent here in the game offers.
And definitely at this point, what you've learned is a lot of the limitations, restrictions he has, specifically in the hip flexor, and not connecting the chain, So I think it's, if anything, coming out of this, at this point, you're only 3 days in, that he has a lot of room for improvement.
He's got a lot of room for improvement. What he's been really impressed with the fact that he knows his body now. He's been through all the tests. He knows where he's deficient. He's deficient in the hips. He has to work on that. He knows he has a live arm. He doesn't have to work on that as much. And I think it's important, not working on what you're so good at doing all the time, but where you're deficient. And what he really has enjoyed so far, we've only been here for a few days, is the fact that he knows his body now.
Yeah.
In just a little bit of time, he knows what to really work on.
And he's got things to work on, not just throwing and hoping to figure something out.
Oh, and you always have something to work on. Don't ever think you have it made, because if you do, then you're in the wrong business. Yeah, you're in trouble.
All right, cool. Well, that was great. I appreciate that. Let's do our question for today. El Caballete asks, if you don't like throwing, then how your pro pitchers prepare for the season, throwing-wise? El Caballete? The only reason I say I don't like throwing is because I really believe in ASMI. We shouldn't throw more than 8 months out of the year. So we're going into an off season after 8 months. We don't need to be continuing to put the wear and tear on the shoulder like an extreme throwing program. So, and that's why I wanted to bring Jay on here, because it kind of contrasts to what we're trying to do now to what we did back then. It's very different. And I think a lot of what we're doing now is just not letting go of what we did back then. So I'm kind of interested in Jay, what he did to prepare for a season. But I'll tell you first what we do with David Ards, my major league pitcher, what we do with Bob Wheatley, minor league pitcher is these guys really don't want to touch a baseball till I'd say mid-January before their season. So that's a good 2 months that they're doing no throwing. Now, I convince them to throw the med balls because my med balls don't put the wear and tear on the shoulder because you can't use a lot of shoulder to throw the ball. So we do try to avoid as much throwing, and when we do throw, it's drill based and it's low stress throwing. So that's our throwing program. It's med throws for the 2 months, and typically when do they get out of professional baseball? When is it in? September. So it's October, November, December. So that's 3 months. So 3 months it's med throws, and in January we start to pick up the baseball, and it's a slow progression into the drills first, and then we take it to the mound, and we hit pins about a month before the season. We start to build in pins. So that's how we do it today. So I want Jay to come talk about what y'all did back then and what was y'all's throwing programs getting into the season.
Getting into the season, we did the typical what you hear all the time, a lot of long toss. That was what we
How
did.
early out of the season would you throw? Can you remember?
it was a while ago, but no, I'd usually take about a month or 2 off, just give my arm a total rest, and then it was long toss. That's what we did. A lot of running, a lot of long toss. So as far as I'm concerned, I was really training to be a track star more than anything.
Or a cross country track.
Exactly. Not so much the weight program. Weights were frowned upon at the time. We're finding out now with these pictures, if you really want to compete, they're finding that weightlifting, Olympic style weightlifting is great for you. It gives you a lot more explosiveness. It's just good for your body, and you don't have to be throwing all the time to get better. You've got to get your body better to get better.
Even before your era, I talked about like the Bob Fellers and the Ted Williams, and even the Big Bruce. I mean, these were big, strong men back then. They weren't weightlifting, but there was a lot of manual labor in the game because the game wasn't paying them a lot of money.
Right.
So, during your era, were guys doing that? A lot of manual labor in their off seasons that might have been giving them strength. What would guys typically do out of the season? Would they just sit around and drink beer?
There wasn't a lot of off-season workouts. There was not. I look back at it now and I said, what a waste of time that was. I could have been such a bit better pitcher. I would have been throwing probably 95, 96. I would have had a good off-season program. Never did. And I think that's one of the great things going on here. You're really working on that.
How do you think Major League Baseball is doing today in player development? I mean, anything you've paid attention to with Major League Baseball? Do you feel like they're getting better at it? I mean, obviously they're getting better. I mean, where do you think they are in player development today?
Well, I think they're starting to catch up with football and a lot of the other sports with weight training and realizing how important it is. There is some people like yourself here that are innovative and have scientific proof that these are the better things to do during the off season.
All right. Next question. Very good. All right, well, you're getting left out.
I'm literally making sure you don't get hit.
Put your input on it. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was really scared of getting hit over there. Yeah, the guys are throwing balls right by my head.
All right, you're gonna get on the next one.
Sure. Yeah.
All right, next question. How to Be asks, what could it be if every time I pitched a fastball, I feel a whip in my elbows, and after a few pitches, it's in pain? This just brings up the point of injury, and I don't really know what's going on with the arm. You have to give me more detail into the pain, how bad it is, where it is, when does it happen. Here's the thing with pain: when you experience pain, studies show if you're pitching through fatigue, you're 36 times more vulnerable to surgery. So if you're pitching with pain, it's not a good thing, and that's why I wanted to talk about Jay, because back in that time period, you just pitched through it. I think today we've learned that it's not smart to pitch through pain. You need to stop. You need to figure out the problem. It's typically related to too much arm or the three things that ASMI tells us is what leads to injury: overuse, poor physical fitness, poor mechanics. And that's what you need to stop and rest and address. The overuse issue, the poor physical fitness issue, and the poor mechanics issue. I know when you're in season you can't do that. I get it. But that's the problem here, and sometimes you can't ignore that. You try to fight through it, and maybe you get through it, maybe you hide the pain and you get lucky and you get through it. But ideally, as someone for me, I would want to tell you to stop and rest and then address these three issues. Like, talk about your time period. I mean, I know. I mean, I was told to pitch through pain. My dad was a captain in the Navy. He said never show pain.
Right.
But look what it got me. I had a total reconstructive surgery in my shoulder. Talk about pain and how you pitched through pain and the repercussions of it you experienced in your career.
With myself, if I felt pain, it was my body telling me that, hey, watch it. I would shut it down. I realized the I listened to my arm and realized if there's something going on, I'm probably doing something wrong with my mechanics. So if I ever felt something that wasn't right, I would stop it. I'd clear it down. That was me personally. This is when I was older.
And you do this with Jack too.
Yeah, I just shut it down, and then try to figure out what it is. It's usually something to do, I think, with the mechanics. I know. I'm a big believer. If your arm's hurting, you're probably throwing with your arm, and you got to re-figure out what's wrong. What is it? And usually arm problem is because you're not using your lower body, or like the friend says, you're not in a good conditioning program.
Or you're
maybe throwing too many breaking pitches at a young age, which I don't think is a great thing to do. I know I did that when I was 7 years old when I first started throwing, and in my high school years I was supposed to be a number 1, number 2 draft pick, but instead I sat out the year because I had a hurt arm because I had bad mechanics. I was just overuse in my arm. Put me back 2 years in my career.
Yeah, and tell your story about how when you first got hurt, how you left the game and what you started doing, and when you came back, you felt so much better.
Yeah, I was always told my whole life I could have been a professional water skier besides a baseball player, and I was told you can either do one or the other because water skiing is too much muscle, and being a baseball player, you want to have long, not a lot of muscles, but long, lean muscles. So anyways, I hurt myself, and I thought I was out of baseball. Like I told you, I did a lot of water skiing. Yeah, I did a lot of water skiing, a lot of slalom skiing, which is real big on the legs, real big on the shoulders. I did that for about a year, and surprisingly, I didn't realize it, but I was actually developing my pitching body back in shape, because about a year after I stopped playing and thought I was done, I had an old friend of mine playing in the city league. Come on out and let's see if you can still throw. I said, I don't think I can. I went out there, make a long story short, arm felt good. 2 days later, they had a game. I threw the game and threw a new no-hitter, had no problems with my arm, and I contributed that to my off-season workout, which is strengthening the muscles, not just elongating, but strengthening them through the water ski program. So anyways, I'm a real big believer now that you've got to get your body strong. You've got to be strong. Yeah, you got to do the fluid that you do. So that's what I learned through my experience, and I'm trying to let my son learn from it, not make the same mistakes that I did, and get him on a good weightlifting program so he doesn't have those type of injuries like I had.
Exactly. I think that's huge, and I think you get lucky. We got lucky in those time periods to fall upon those sports that were building us better before we came into baseball. And I think today, now that that's definitely what you need. You need a type of out-of-season development to develop the legs, develop the strength, the mechanics, because the season's not going to get better. So I think that's the lesson here, and that's what we've learned over the years. And I don't think there's any excuse for the young kids out there to not follow this approach and definitely try to not be too old school in that mindset. Really kind of embrace this new school approach, because it's a lot healthier approach. Optimally, and hopefully, when more people embrace this, that injury rates go down. I think, unfortunately, a lot of people have embraced the strength development and made a lot of gains, velocity gains with it, but maybe have ignored the overuse problems, ignored getting into better biomechanics, and our injury rates are still going up. So it's a lot more than just getting strong. It's understanding how all this works together to protect the body and make the body as healthy as it can be in the game, not just the game itself, or the game itself is not going to create that. This whole time.
Yeah, I was just going to add when it comes to all the kinetic chain and 4 months of off-season training and how it all ties together, there's just still so much in baseball going around. Even though these studies are coming out on long loss and how it changes your kinematics on the mound and it adds stress, it's the least efficient throws, blah blah blah. People are still doing it. Like, people are still going through like long tossing is the way to gain velocity. In college, we had a long toss program when I was in college.
Wait, are you talking extreme long toss or short distance?
I'm talking talking like extreme long toss.
Make those
weighted. Yeah, okay. Right. So yeah, like extreme long toss, extreme weighted balls, extreme throwing programs, all that kind of stuff. People are still doing that in an off season, rather around building up the body, learning the better mechanics, and everything that's really going to help to prevent injury. If people are still falling into the trap of, baseball is still this arm thing where it's just throwing and throw. And unfortunately, I still think that is kind of still around.
Yeah, and when we mean extreme, it's when you throw to a distance to where you're not throwing on the line, you're not throwing through your biomechanics, you throw around, You're throwing the ball as high as you can to get as far as you can. You've changed your mechanics. You put more torques in your arm. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
You're not talking about going 150 feet on the line through your pitching mechanics.
Yeah, no, I'm all about that.
We support that. We just don't support it when it changes everything. Right? It increases the torques and everything.
Yeah, when you have extreme long throws, you're not throwing like you normally would throw. It's important to always throw like you're always going to be throwing on the mound. You know, keep everything, keep your hips, keep your arms, everything in sync.
Replicating the
Yeah, when you do the extreme long toss, everything's just out of whack, really.
It is. Just like anything. We don't want to get to extremes of anything, and we change the mechanics, and we put too much stress on the body. All right, appreciate it. Thanks, Jay, for doing this.
Thank you very much.
Good. If you have questions, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, @TopLights, #pitch it. Ask your question, answer the show, 2x3x camps. Check them out, and see you on the next episode.